Hi, my name is Nux, and I'm here to sell you on Warhammer 40k. Today I'm joined by my girlfriend, and hopefully I can sell not only the viewer, that's you, and her on Warhammer 40k. In the grim, dark future, there is only war. First and foremost, we're going to start with the most represented faction, which is the Imperium. The Imperium of Man, last bastion of humanity, is a bleak hellscape beset by all kinds of terrifying creatures, which are blanketed under one term known as Xenos. The life of an average human consists of pain and misery, either from the labor they are assigned by their homeworld directive, or from Xenos incursions. A single threat from one of the many Xenos races could spell the doom of any human world. The great emperor sits upon the golden throne as a shell of his former glory. Humanity has one shield and sword against the evils of the galaxy, and that is the Space Marines. Genetically engineered superhumans trained in wielding powerful bolt weaponry and chain swords, clad in hulking metal armor. These Space Marines are derived from the first of their genetic strains, the Primarchs. There are 20 Primarchs in total, and each created by the very hands of the Emperor of Man.
I guess I don't understand, why are they considered the bad guys? Out of everybody right now?
There are no real good guys in Warhammer 40k. I would argue, kind of controversially, that the nicest people are the Tau, but we'll get to them later. The reason why we're starting is because they are the most represented, and in the grim, dark future of the 40th millennia, they have to survive on a very kind of macro scale because the world, or I guess the universe, is so uncaring and so fraught with turmoil that in order to have the human race still survive in a universe that would otherwise just obliterate them if they were to show any kind of real humanity or weakness, it's become a form of coping with it. So therefore humans are easily accessible. They are grown rather than born. There are still some natural born humans, but a lot of them are grown in vats because they need reliable army units to be able to defend humanity.
Sexy robots, so sexy, sexy robots.
So we'll go next with the Adeptus Mechanicus.
The one that's on the screen right now?
Yes, the one that is on the screen right now.
Okay.
The Adeptus Mechanicus. The colonies of Mars were sent in the 30th millennia from Holy Terra, Earth, to create life on Mars. What they did instead was become their very own race of super technologically advanced technophiles. They worship the Emperor of Man as a deity known as the Omnissiah for his advancements in humanity's technology.
Wait, I'm sorry, Warhammer 40k is set in space?
Yes, it is set in space. So, the Emperor of Man was essentially the pinnacle of what humanity could achieve. He had completely deregulated all forms of religion because he felt that it was considered to be counterintuitive to the progress of humanity. He created a bunch of different projects to traverse the galaxy and all kinds of things such as space travel and all those kind of things. He essentially elevated humanity to a point, which is why he is seen as a god to the factions of humanity. Thus, this Mechanicus is essentially, these people will take bits of themselves and they will swap them out with mechanical parts because they think that flesh is weak, and they would rather have themselves become more like robots, or I guess semi-humanoid cyborgs, thank you, than be human, because in Adeptus Mechanicus, flesh is temporary, the machine is eternal. I love chaos. So, chaos is the forces of pure warp energy, which the warp is the tumultuous, chaotic energy of the universe, essentially. It is everything and nothing that has been in the universe since the dawn of time. Yeah. We have 4 gods in the chaos. We have Khorne, we have Slaanesh, we have Tzeentch, and we have my personal favorite, Nurgle. First is Khorne, god of slaughter and all things brutal. He is pride incarnate and revels in the death on the battlefield. There are no altars to Khorne to pray to. The battlefield is his church. Khorne does not discriminate, for he cares not for where the blood flows, only that it flows. Khorne employs various demons in his army, but none are as devastating as the Bloodletters, great hulking devil avatars. And the Primarch of his Legion of Space Marines is Angron. So this is Angron. Angron is the Chaos Space Marine of Khorne. Now, I have to put a side note here and say that there is a very pivotal moment in the birth and eventual fall of the Imperium to what it is today, known as the Horus Heresy. Now, of the 20 Primarchs, Horus was the first, and he was considered to be the most adept and most destined for greatness in the eyes of the Emperor. And when Chaos got to Horus, Horus had slain one of his brothers in one-on-one combat known as Sanguinius, and in doing so was weakened just enough to be felled in combat by the Emperor of Man. But doing so, the Emperor of Man was mortally wounded, and Horus left with a section of the other Primarchs to be a part of Chaos. Khorne Jr. essentially. So he eventually had elevated into what is known as a Daemon Prince, which the Daemon Princes are considered to be almost avatars of Khorne, or the Chaos God themselves. The second is Nurgle, the Rot Father, the Plague Papa, Daddy Nurg. Nurgle is the Chaos God of life and death. He revels in the great pestilence his minions spread upon the universe. All who worship Nurgle are freed from mortal pain and strife. The worshippers of Nurgle are perceived as wearing smiles on their faces, unaware of the horrid diseases they set upon the mortals of the galaxy. The Primarch of Nurgle is Mortarion, Primarch of the Death Guard. There is Mortarion. So, why is Nurgle my favorite? Nurgle is my favorite because he is just a very kind of jovial, happy god in what he does. He does not hate, he is not angry, he does not seek suffering in others. Rather, he is in a lot of ways very innocent, and on top of that, he provides something that I personally would want in a universe such as this, which is there are so many things out to cause pain, suffering, death, and just an overabundance of horrible things to you as a human or as just a mortal being. So what does he give you instead? He gives you no pain. You will feel nothing. Granted, he's going to turn you into a giant bloated walking corpse, but you're not going to feel any of it. So in my eyes, if you're going to be in a world that is so hell-bent on killing you in the worst ways possible, you might as well take something that's going to make you feel none of that and instead revel in the camaraderie of your fellow Space Marines and fellow Chaos cultists and enjoy it.
Yes.
Right? Alright, so next is Slaanesh. Now,
That's a weird fucking picture.
it is, but it's... I couldn't find any that didn't have nudity, and I don't want to have to... yeah, so basically, Slaanesh, the Chaos God of excess and pleasure. They are the youngest Chaos God who was created by a cataclysmic amount of excess and depravity by a race called the Eldar, which we'll get into them. If you're a weeb, you're probably a follower of Slaanesh. Slaanesh revels in excess and prideful boasting of one's own accomplishments. Fulgrim, Primarch of the Emperor's Children, is the worshipper of Slaanesh.
So, all this information you're giving me,
Yes.
like who these people are, who the gods are, why they want to worship these gods, whatever the case may be, how's that gonna make me want to play Warhammer? All this information you're giving me,
Yes.
like who these people are, who the gods are, why they want to worship these gods, whatever the case may be, how's that gonna make me want to play Warhammer?
Well, it gives you an idea. A lot of what Warhammer is based on is what you find to be the coolest and what you want to indulge in as your army. So if you think that Slaanesh is just super cool, you love all the boobs, you love the excess, you love the abundance of over emotion and just the sensory overload, that's the one that you're going to want to look into. If you like the Eldar, which are these space elves, that's another thing that you can look into on, it's all about finding the lore and the faction that you enjoy the most, and then from there you can get into the mechanics of the game and the lore and the comics and the games that most interest you.
I guess I don't understand what I don't know what kind of game Warhammer is.
Warhammer is a tabletop RPG where you build your army. You have an army of units, and what you do is you command those armies to enact certain effects. So, like, let's say, for instance, that you have a set of Space Marines, and you want them to move against a Tau army. So it's you versus another person, and player versus player combat, and each person is going to have their turns trying to destroy the other person's team. Or there are other game modes such that you don't have to specifically go and fight against another person. You can try and hold a position, like capture the flag, to try and beat the person in various other ways. So, if you like the beefiness of Nurgle and you really want to just be able to hold a spot and never let anybody get into that area, and that's how you're going to win the game, then that's what you do. If you love the brutality of Khorne, then you'll probably want to do a lot of combat, one-on-one. I'm just going to beat you into submission type of people. If you like humanity and you love just the lore of the Holy Roman Empire, and you love the camaraderie of brother, I'm here to protect you, my fellow Space Marines and my Primarch for the glory of the Emperor. You love that entire aesthetic, then that's for you. And there's even more subsections of the Space Marines that I haven't even gotten into. The Chaos God of Change, a god wholeheartedly engrossed in all things scheming. Tzeentch can and will have a contingency plan for anything and everything. That could be those with nothing left to lose and everything to gain may change their fate by giving in to Tzeentch. Magnus the Red is the Primarch of the Thousand Sons and worshipper of Tzeentch.
He's super just, I'm just gonna fuck with people a little bit. But not too much to where they hate me, but just enough to piss them off. That's what he feels like. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's my own personal...
That's a pretty accurate one. Tzeentch essentially is the all according to plan. Like if you ever watch Death Note, the way that Light is always like all according to plan.
It sounds like the OP character where it's like, you thought you foiled my plans, but that was actually a part of my plans.
Yes, that is 100% how
Except
Zinch
he's a god
is.
and nobody wins.
Exactly. And all 4 of these gods are engrossed in a thing called the game, the Great Game. And the Great Game is a conscious, ever progressing game that changes who is most in power anytime. There is never a finite winner of the game because of all the great chaos deities, one will always trump the other and have that spot for just a little bit, and then they lose it again, and then another one comes up. Maybe it's Korn for this section.
Infinite musical chairs.
Exactly, and a lot of this is hinged on the gods not liking each other. You know, Nurgle doesn't like Zinch because why would life and death, something that's so finite and so unchanging, everyone's gonna die, everyone's gonna live. There's always that cycle happening. So why would someone who's going to change everything be friends with the guy that always has his routine?
Weapon of my choice is great balls of fire. So why
The Eldar, space elves. They remind me a lot of Protoss.
Yeah.
Yep, they remind
Ah,
me. Alright, so the Eldar, essentially space elves, older, wiser,
oh my
more...
god, you just said that and it fucking blew my mind. Eldar is Protoss, but now all I can think of is Space Marine is Benrir with the gear. I can't build here.
Alright, so...
Fucking blew my mind. What? Does that mean you're rat boys or fucking...
Oh no, that's fantasy. That's a whole different ball game. Like, let's stick to 40K, and then we'll get into fantasy later on. Maybe that'll be my next video.
Oh boy.
Yeah, but let's start with the Eldar. The Eldar, essentially space elves, older, wiser, more advanced, pointy-eared humanoids that are attuned to the warp, so much so that they created Slaanesh out of the depraved excess they wrought upon the galaxy.
And they also have the armor fashion show.
They sure do. This caused the Eldar to lose their otherwise immortal rebirth status and forever fear that should they fall in battle, their soul will be fuel for Slaanesh. So, way back when, I mean, granted, the Eldar were vastly older than any other race, and they looked at humans as a lesser race, which they have deemed in the Eldar tongue as Monkai. Why are they called Monkai? Because Gear Workshop didn't want to call humans monkeys. So, but what had happened is, if you become so advanced and you've experienced everything in the world, the world stops having any kind of wow factor to it. So you start indulging in more and more stuff, you know? You've been like, you know, I have 1 cookie a day, and that's just not enough for me anymore. Now I have to have 2. Now I have to have 3. Now I have to have an orgy while eating my cookies. And that's essentially what happened. They started indulging in all the pleasures of the world, so much so that this amass of excess and depravity birthed Slaanesh, which Slaanesh, in the birth of their being, devoured half of the Eldar population, to which then they had to escape from, the Eldar had to escape from Slaanesh and from their homeworld on massive ships they called craft worlds.
So a world within a world, basically.
Imagine a planet-sized ship, something big enough that they could hold the excess of 2 continents worth. And then there are things like the Dark Eldar. The Dark Eldar are essentially the Eldar that didn't go with the rest of the Eldar that got off, and they have pledged themselves to the depravity that they have accepted in the birth of Slaanesh. Now, the Dark Eldar are not necessarily followers of Slaanesh, but they are not stopping themselves from doing anything other than what they had indulged in prior. They indulge in slavery. They indulge in, torture and malicious forms of death and destruction, and just seeing how far can they push the sensory overload of themselves and others. Yeah, they're basically Space Hitler in this. The Dark Eldar. They're not fun. I don't like them. They don't give a fuck. They're coming for you, and they're going to make you hurt so bad.
Crying corner.
It's bad, man. I don't like them. This is some of their spaceships and what. So, the orcs are a pretty simple race. They are simple, effective, clean. The orcs, violence incarnate. They know nothing but to wage unending war. The orcs are your typical fantasy portrayal of the green D&D bastards, except for 2 clear distinctions. 1, they're grown from spores and are virtually impossible to get rid of. And 2, if an orc believes it, it will be so. They have 2 orc gods, Gork and Mork. One is cunningly brutal, and the other is brutally cunning. And yes, those are interchangeable. Each orc faction, I guess you could consider them, are held by a big boss, which a big boss is just literally the biggest, meanest, most violent orc. And these big orcs, and
His name is Dork.
No. Like I said, if they believe it, then it will happen. So if they paint their machines red, it means that they'll hit harder. If they paint them yellow, they'll go faster. And it's literally in the lore that if they believe it, then it will happen. And
so let me get this straight. Orcs are literally orcs. Dudes on a battlefield, and they're all, let me take out my handy dandy paintbrush, and I'm gonna make this green. And green means go.
yes.
Because I fucking said so.
And if you look to your buddy and you're like, hey, green means go. And he's like, yeah, green means go. Green means go. Let's do this. And it will make it go. It'll make it work. Even if that thing physically should not be going, it'll go. It is basically the SpongeBob It's a Rock meme. And if you get enough orcs into one place believing in one thing, they will start a thing called a Wa. Now, a Wa is a destructive force of orcs just barreling through the cosmos, not giving a fuck, and just pillaging as they go. The Tyranids were actually what inspired the Zerg.
Interesting.
So the Tyranids are a multitude of different types of insect-like xenos, which what they do is they go to planet and they just erase any form of biomatter that is on the planet, and they take it for themselves. So if there's a plant, they're going to take that plant and they're going to turn it into Tyranid biomatter. They see a human, they're going to turn it into biomatter. That usually means killing and eating it.
Dope.
So, the Tau, a primitive, relatively new race that is similar to humanity with the exception that they have exceedingly advanced firepower and robotic technology. They derive their society from their mythical old ones, who taught them of the greater good, linked via a pseudo-hive mind where if the survival of the species depends on it, your autonomy will be arrested long-range fighters. They do not do well in close quarters combat. So if you have to get into a fist fight as a Tau, you're gonna get your shit pushed in. But if you never have to deal with melee combat, then you can just absolutely wreck face. They are, in my opinion, the most good race in Warhammer 40k. But that's simply because I don't think that having your humanity taken away from you for a short period of time in order to get something done that will benefit the greater community is as bad as, say, being thrown into a resource or death world because there's natural resources there and you're just stuck in squalor as a human, you know, and there's nothing you can do about that. Nobody cares about you, this little grunt, in humanity. And on top of that, Tau are not normally warmongers. They don't go around attempting to occupy as much as they can. If anything, when they come to a planet and they're like, hey, listen, your planet, it's kinda in our area, can we please have it? And if you say no, it's like, all right, well, we tried the nice way, now we're gonna do it our way. Okay, so have I piqued your interest at all with any of these races, or?
Fuck no, you crazy?
No, none of them. Not even one.
Nah, I gotta be honest. I'll probably look into the orcs.
Into the
because
orcs.
I like the idea that if they just paint shit, it goes this way. Because I like the idea. Orc, dork. Yeah, orc named Dork. I paint red. What red mean? Red mean gay. Okay. Dude, what's his problem? I don't know. He said red means gay. Alright, fuck it. Alright, everybody go with it.
Alright, well,
and that's just how it happens.
that concludes my first ever video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I was able to sell you on the hobby. It's a lot of fun. There's a great community around it. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you like what I do here, I'm looking to expand. So please subscribe if you feel so inclined. And thank you so much. Check out my streams, which happen every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and special streams on Saturdays. So look forward to that. But other than that, thank you so much and have a wonderful day.